It all began with a quiet afternoon when Evelyn decided to explore her late father's study, a room that had remained largely untouched since his passing over a decade ago. As she sifted through old papers, dust-covered books, and mementos from his archaeological expeditions, she happened upon a peculiar item tucked away in a small safe. The safe's door creaked open, revealing a collection of aged documents and artifacts, including the tape. It was an old VHS cassette, unlabeled and forgotten, hidden beneath layers of aging parchment and half-forgotten maps. The significance of the tape's contents remained a mystery, its origins unclear. Curiosity compelled Evelyn to retrieve an old VHS player stored in a corner of the room. With care, she inserted the tape and pressed play. The grainy image flickered to life on the small screen, revealing her father, a passionate archaeologist, addressing the camera with an intensity that transcended the limitations of the medium. He spoke of an extraordinary discovery that had consumed his final years, his eyes radiating excitement. In the recorded message, he described the existence of an ancient journal, a journal filled with cryptic symbols and an unfamiliar script. It was this journal that hinted at the existence of a secretive society of scholars, and it was this society that had propelled him into a fervent pursuit of knowledge. Evelyn watched, captivated by her father's words, and as the tape played on, she realized that she held in her hands a key to an enigmatic history. The prospect of uncovering this history, of delving into the unknown, had ignited a fire in her that would soon engulf us all. With the discovery of her father's recorded message and the enigmatic journal it described, Evelyn felt an irresistible urge to delve into the mysteries of the past. It was a call to uncover the secrets of a hidden society that had long intrigued her father. Evelyn knew that she couldn't embark on this journey alone, that the challenges ahead required a team. She reached out to Max Sterling, her friend and financial backer. Max had shared her father's passion for archaeology and had, in the past, provided the resources for their joint expeditions. Initially skeptical, Max couldn't ignore the fervor in Evelyn's voice. As she described the ancient journal and the tantalizing hints of the society it referenced, Max's skepticism transformed into intrigue. The potential of the journal's secrets and its implications for their archaeological pursuits kindled a spark within him. It was a call to adventure and discovery, a chance to honor the memory of their mutual friend and mentor. Together, they decided to assemble a team to embark on a journey that would take them deep into the heart of the jungle and into the pages of a history that had been concealed for centuries. Evelyn and Max had a deep passion for their shared goal, to uncover the secrets hinted at by the ancient journal and to explore the hidden temple that had captivated Evelyn's father. However, the challenges of the jungle and the enigmas within the temple demanded a diverse team with complementary skills. With this in mind, they began the process of reaching out to individuals who could contribute to the expedition. The first person they contacted was Lucas, a former soldier with experience in navigating harsh and uncharted terrains. His survival skills, adaptability, and problem-solving abilities made him an ideal candidate for the expedition. Lucas's initial reaction was a mix of skepticism and curiosity. The allure of adventure and the possibility of exploring an ancient, hidden temple convinced him to join their ranks. However, Lucas alone couldn't fulfill all the requirements of the journey. The team needed more than just survival skills. They needed someone with medical expertise who could ensure their safety in the wild and address potential medical challenges. It was during this search that my name came into the picture. Evelyn had heard of me through a mutual acquaintance who knew of my medical skills and my yearning for adventure. The thought of a trauma surgeon joining an archaeological expedition might seem unconventional, but the prospect of uncharted territories and the chance to break free from the clinical confines of the operating room was too compelling to resist. I received a call from Evelyn herself, who explained the ancient journal, the hidden society, and the exciting journey into the heart of the jungle that awaited us. Her words stirred something within me, a sense of unquenchable curiosity and a longing for adventure. I was drawn into the orbit of this remarkable tale, feeling a growing connection to this expedition before I had even formally met the others. And so, with each member bringing unique skills, a shared enthusiasm for the unknown, and the determination to uncover the secrets of the temple, the decision to form a team was solidified. Our preparations were soon underway, marking the beginning of an extraordinary adventure that would alter the course of our lives. Next, we focused on the practical aspects of our upcoming expedition. We knew that embarking on this journey required meticulous preparations and a deep understanding of the temple's history and potential dangers. Evelyn took the lead, drawing upon her father's notes and knowledge to guide our preparations. Together, we gathered the necessary equipment and supplies, meticulously checking and rechecking to ensure nothing would be left to chance. The jungle was known for its unpredictability, and we needed to be ready for any challenges it might throw at us. Our research into the temple's history was equally intensive. We pored over manuscripts, historical accounts, and maps that hinted at the temple's location. This knowledge would be our compass as we ventured into uncharted territory. As the days passed and our preparations continued, a palpable sense of excitement and anticipation filled the air. The unknown lay before us, waiting to be discovered. We knew that our journey into the jungle was not only a physical expedition but a voyage into the depths of history and the human spirit, a journey that would test our mettle, our wits, and our ability to adapt. The temple, hidden beneath the dense jungle canopy, awaited us, shrouded in ancient mysteries. The decision to form a team and our meticulous preparations were the first steps toward unveiling those mysteries, and as the day of our departure drew near, we couldn't help but feel that our lives were about to be forever changed. With our preparations complete, the day of our departure had arrived. Guided by Evelyn's research and her father's recorded message, we were as ready as we could be for what laid ahead. Our journey began with a plane ride that brought us to a remote village nestled on the outskirts of the jungle. The plane landed on a small, makeshift airstrip, surrounded by thick vegetation. It was our first glimpse of the uncharted territory we were about to explore. From there, we transitioned to a rugged 4x4 vehicle, which would serve as our mode of transportation as far as the jungle's challenging terrain would allow. The narrow, winding roads were treacherous, flanked by dense foliage that seemed to reach out and embrace us as we passed. We navigated the jungle's outskirts, our progress often hindered by overgrown vegetation, fallen trees, and washed-out roads. The 4x4 took us as far as it could, but the jungle's relentless grip made it clear that continuing by car was no longer an option. With our vehicle parked in a clearing, we made the decision to proceed on foot. The thick canopy of leaves above us filtered the sunlight, casting dappled shadows on the ground below. Every step we took was met with the rustling of underbrush and the calls of exotic birds in the distance. The journey on foot was a transformative experience. We had left behind the world we knew, and each stride carried us further into the heart of the unknown. The path was unmarked, and the jungle, with its secrets and challenges, stretched out before us like an enigma waiting to be unraveled. As we continued through the dense undergrowth, we were aware that every step brought us closer to the temple and the mysteries it held. The expedition was in full swing, with the jungle enveloping us and the promise of discovery urging us onward. As our journey into the jungle continued, we faced an unexpected challenge. The narrow path we had been following led us to a seemingly impenetrable thicket, where the jungle's grasp seemed to tighten. Max, driven by his curiosity and determination to uncover the temple's secrets, couldn't resist the urge to push through the dense undergrowth. With each step he took, the underbrush became thicker, and the air grew more stifling. He forged ahead, determined to make a path for the team, his heart pounding with anticipation. Unbeknownst to us, Max's progress was leading him directly into the heart of a hidden trap. The ground beneath him gave way with a sudden, heart-stopping lurch, and he tumbled into a concealed underground chamber, disappearing from view. The shock and fear that coursed through us were huge. We rushed to the edge of the pit, calling out to Max and straining to see into the darkness below. Big relief washed over us as he quickly called up that he was okay, his voice tinged with excitement. In the dim light filtering from above, he mentioned that he believed he had found something significant. With Max safe for the moment, we used a rope secured by Lucas, the former soldier who had taken the lead, to lower ourselves into the pit. One by one, we descended into the hidden chamber, with each footstep bringing us closer to Max and the enigmatic discovery he had alluded to. The pit seemed to stretch into an abyss, but our determination to reunite and explore the secrets below was unwavering. It was an act of trust and camaraderie, a shared resolve to uncover the mysteries of the underground temple. As we touched down onto the chamber's uneven stone floor, our flashlights illuminated a grand stone door, ornately carved with intricate symbols. Evelyn, with her extensive research and knowledge of ancient languages, recognized these symbols and their significance. With careful, almost reverent movements, she began to decipher the mechanism that would grant us access to the temple. When Evelyn's efforts finally yielded success and the stone door slowly swung open, our emotions surged. A collective sense of wonder and awe washed over us as we stepped through the threshold into the underground temple. The temple's interior was a breathtaking tableau of history and mystery. Its walls were adorned with elaborate carvings that told stories of a bygone era, and the air was thick with the weight of centuries. The atmosphere was a blend of trepidation and exhilaration, the very essence of discovery. Our journey had taken us from the jungle's embrace to the hallowed halls of an ancient sanctuary. The temple stood as a testament to the scholars who had left their mark on history, and we were now the explorers fortunate enough to traverse its hallowed grounds. With every heartbeat and every breath, we were acutely aware of the profound moment in which we found ourselves, bound by a shared adventure and a commitment to uncover the riddles of the temple's past. As we crossed the threshold into the underground temple, a sense of wonder and uncertainty washed over us. The chamber's stone walls loomed high, their ancient echoes reverberating through the air. In those initial moments, there was no need for words. We exchanged glances that carried the weight of our shared journey, the excitement of discovery, and the awareness that the unknown lay ahead. Evelyn, with her unwavering determination, broke the silence. She motioned for us to gather around and explained the layout of the temple as far as her research had revealed. The narrow stone corridors ahead formed a labyrinth, a deliberate puzzle designed to protect the scholar's secrets. Her words were a beacon, guiding us through the darkness of the unknown. We followed our plan as rehearsed. Each of us began to unpack our equipment, flashlight beams cutting through the shadows. Max, the historian, took out his notepad and pen, ready to document every detail. Lucas, the former soldier, checked his survival gear, ensuring we were prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. Evelyn herself took out a worn map she had brought from her research, which had been annotated with the temple's layout as far as she understood it. Her knowledge was our compass, and her voice led the way. As we ventured further into the labyrinthine corridors, the emotions of our shared journey were palpable. The darkness held its secrets close, but our determination to uncover the temple's mysteries bound us together. The stone corridors of the temple stretched out before us, and with every step, the shadows seemed to take on a life of their own. It wasn't long before we began to notice fleeting movements in the corners of our vision, a disconcerting presence that flickered in the darkness. Our initial sense of wonder started to erode, replaced by a growing unease. Whispers of concern passed between us as we strained to discern the source of the ominous shadows. It was as though the very walls of the temple held secrets that they were reluctant to reveal. As we ventured deeper into the labyrinthine corridors, the atmosphere grew heavier. The air seemed charged with tension, and our flashlights could barely penetrate the gloom that surrounded us. Our equipment was our only link to the familiar world outside, and the darkness pressed in from all sides. In our search for answers, we stumbled upon a chamber, its entrance shrouded in darkness. Inside, we expected to find writings and diagrams detailing the scholar's experiments, but what we encountered left us in shocked silence. Preserved in glass containers were the failed results of the scholar's reckless experiments. Grotesque, hybrid creatures that defied the laws of nature lay in a grotesque display, frozen in their unnatural forms. Our flashlights illuminated their misshapen bodies, a testament to the consequences of tampering with life itself. As we peered into the glass containers, disbelief and horror washed over us. It was as if we had stepped into a surreal nightmare, surrounded by the monstrous creations of the scholars. The very air seemed to hold its breath, as if the temple itself was aware of the abominations contained within. But our shock was soon eclipsed by an even more horrifying event. As we stood in the chamber, unable to comprehend the extent of the scholar's experiments, a powerful force suddenly seized Max. He screamed in terror as he was dragged away into the shadows, his voice echoing through the temple's dark corridors. The shock of Max's sudden disappearance was paralyzing, and our minds raced to make sense of the horrifying events that were unfolding before us. A tense silence enveloped our small group. The echoes of his terrified scream still hung in the air, a haunting reminder of the peril we were now facing. Lucas, the former soldier, was the first to react. In one swift motion, he withdrew a formidable-looking weapon. The metallic glint of the firearm caught the dim light, and its presence was both reassuring and unsettling. He held it firmly, his fingers steady despite the fear that was etched across his face. With the weapon at the ready, Lucas took a commanding stance. He pivoted on his heel to face Evelyn and me, the two remaining women in the group. His voice, firm and low, conveyed a sense of urgency as he issued instructions. "Evelyn, stay close to Dr. Sophie," he ordered, his eyes scanning the shadowy expanse of the temple's chamber. "Keep your flashlight steady and be prepared for anything. Dr. Sophie, be ready to use your medical training if necessary." The weight of responsibility settled on us as we nodded in acknowledgement, our flashlights poised, and our senses heightened. We were acutely aware of the unknown dangers that lurked in the darkness. Lucas, with his weapon held high, scanned the surroundings, his gaze darting from shadow to shadow. He had taken on the role of our protector, and his instincts as a soldier kicked in. Every sound, every movement, became a potential threat that needed to be assessed and addressed. The chamber that had once seemed filled with the horrors of the scholar's experiments had now become a place of even greater terror. The loss of Max had heightened our vulnerability, and our expedition had evolved into a battle for survival. In that tense and uncertain moment, the boundaries of our roles were blurred, and we were no longer simply explorers. We were a group bound by a shared experience of fear, resilience, and a determination to navigate the perilous journey that lay ahead. As the minutes passed, we started to discuss the harrowing events we had just witnessed. Evelyn, her voice quivering, broke the silence. "We need to leave, now," she insisted, her fear driving her to suggest an immediate escape. But my concern for Max outweighing my fear, countered, "We can't just leave Max behind. We must find him. He might still be alive." A heated debate ensued. We were torn between the urgency of escape and our loyalty to our missing friend. Then, just as the argument reached its crescendo, a distant, guttural scream echoed through the temple's corridors. It was Max's voice, carried by an air of anguish and desperation. We fell silent, our faces drained of color. Max's scream was a stark reminder of our mission and the grim reality we faced. The debate ended as abruptly as it had begun, replaced by a shared understanding that we couldn't abandon our friend. "He's alive," I whispered, my voice filled with equal parts relief and dread. The decision was clear now. We needed to find Max, and then, together, we needed to escape the horrors that lurked within the temple's heart. As we prepared to set off in search of Max, our shared determination to rescue him fueled our courage. The temple held our friend, and we were resolved to reclaim him, no matter the horrors we had to confront. The path forward was uncertain and fraught with danger, but our bond remained unbroken. With Lucas leading the way, we set out to search for Max, our flashlights cutting through the darkness of the temple's labyrinthine corridors. We moved in the direction from which we had heard Max's voice last, our hearts heavy with anxiety and determination. As we neared a sharp turn, the air seemed to grow colder and more oppressive, and our flashlights revealed the flickering shadows that danced along the ancient stone walls. The very stones themselves seemed to groan with the weight of centuries, bearing witness to the secrets of the temple. And then, as we turned the corner, it revealed itself. A grotesque figure, a nightmarish fusion of different creatures. Its body was a patchwork of horror, with serpentine limbs, the wings of a monstrous bird, and the head of a reptile. Its skin was mottled with a sickly combination of scales and feathers, a testament to the unholy experiments conducted by the scholars. Lucas, ever the protector, instantly positioned himself between us and the mutant, his weapon raised and ready to defend. It was a scene of chilling confrontation, the unknown and the monstrous facing the determined and the defiant. The mutant, sensing our presence, released a bone-chilling scream that sent shivers down our spines. Then, with startling speed, it started to charge at us, its movements a bizarre amalgamation of the creatures from which it had been stitched together. In the face of this abomination, Lucas reacted with unwavering resolve. He fired 3 shots in rapid succession. The echoing cracks of the gunshots reverberated through the chamber, and the mutant's charge came to an abrupt, grotesque halt. It fell to the ground, writhing and convulsing, the disturbing amalgamation of creatures now a grotesque, lifeless tableau. Its limbs twitched, its strange, chimeric eyes stared lifelessly, and the terror it had embodied was vanquished, or so it seemed. We stood there, a collective breath held, as the echoes of the gunfire mingled with the fading screams of the mutant. We cautiously approached the lifeless body, the grotesque amalgamation of creatures now eerily still. Lucas hesitantly kicked it with his boot, his eyes scanning for any sign of life. "I think it's dead," he stated, his voice laced with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. As I knelt down to examine the creature, my eyes alight with scientific curiosity, I couldn't help but be intrigued by the nightmarish creation that lay before us. "This is fascinating," I murmured, my gloved fingers delicately tracing the strange anatomy of the mutant. "I need to perform an autopsy," I continued, "to understand the details of this creature's biology, how these different species were merged." My tone was both professional and fascinated, reflecting my dual roles as a trauma surgeon and an inquisitive scientist. Lucas, ever the pragmatist, shook his head. "We're running out of time," he reminded us. "Our priority is finding Max and getting out of here safely." Reluctantly, I nodded, acknowledging the urgency of our situation. I quickly jotted down some notes about the mutant's bizarre anatomy and the patterns of its hybridization. My notes would have to wait for further examination. With that, we pressed on in our search for Max. The temple's mysteries still loomed around us, and our journey was far from over. But for now, the need to rescue our friend took precedence over the desire to uncover the secrets of the scholar's unholy experiments. We continued our journey through the temple's winding corridors, our flashlights piercing the shadows. As we delved deeper, we began to see faint traces of blood on the ground. The sight of the crimson stains sent shivers down our spines, and we followed the morbid trail in search of our missing friend. The trail of blood led us to the end of a dimly lit corridor, and there, in the cold, eerie darkness, we found Max's still body. Our hearts sank as we approached, but hope stirred in our hearts, and we reached out to help him. And in that moment the war's possible fate for Max was confirmed. He was already gone. His lifeless body just laying on the cold ground. We were left with tears in our eyes. It was in that moment, in the heart of our shock and confusion, that the mutant struck. From behind, they emerged like grotesque apparitions, their grotesque bodies moving with eerie swiftness and unnatural grace. The darkness seemed to shroud them, making it hard to discern where one mutant ended and another began. Their claws and gnashing teeth were a flurry of frenzied movement as they pounced upon us, their unearthly cries mingling with our own shouts of terror. In the chaos of the assault, we fought for our lives, wielding improvised weapons, and relying on our instincts. Lucas was firing his weapon at them, but there were too many to handle. The mutants were relentless, their chimeric forms a nightmare made flesh. Panic coursed through us, and we knew that escape was our only hope. In our desperate scramble, we stumbled upon a small room. With the mutants closing in, we managed to enter the room and locked the door behind us. The chamber provided temporary respite, but we knew we were trapped within the temple's heart, with the horrors that lurked outside. Inside the small, dimly lit room, we were all injured to varying degrees. Evelyn's condition was the most concerning. Her face was pale, and she clutched her stomach, blood seeping through her trembling fingers. The mutant's attack had left us battered and wounded, our nerves frayed. During the grim situation, I became the caretaker, the one with medical training. With trembling hands, I opened my backpack, which contained a modest assortment of supplies. We needed to address our injuries if we had any hope of escaping this living nightmare. Evelyn's condition was serious. Her wound was deep, a jagged gash on her stomach that required stitches. I knew that time was of the essence, and without proper medical equipment, I would have to make do with the supplies at hand. With a determined focus, I carefully sutured Evelyn's wound, trying to ignore her muffled cries of pain. The room felt increasingly oppressive as I worked, the knowledge that we were locked within this cursed temple weighing heavily on our shoulders. With the last stitch in place, I offered Evelyn a reassuring smile, although it couldn't fully mask the tension that gripped us. Lucas and I, although not unscathed, had sustained injuries that were more manageable. I quickly tended to our minor wounds, applying bandages and disinfecting cuts and scrapes. "This was a trap," Lucas said. "They lured us with Max's body. These creatures seem to be somewhat intelligent. We need to move," he added. We had to find a way out, and with our wounds treated, we could at least continue our search for an escape route. The dim light revealed our bruised and anxious faces as we turned our attention to the room itself. It was time to unlock the secrets that the chamber held and find a path back to safety. Inside the dimly lit chamber, the sense of unease and confinement had reached its peak. We knew we had to find an escape route from this nightmarish temple. It was Lucas who noticed a potential way out. He directed his flashlight toward the ceiling, where a small opening led to an upper level of the temple. A flicker of hope ignited in our hearts as we saw a possible means of escape. With skill and determination, Lucas set up a rope to reach the opening. He climbed up first to inspect the route, ensuring it was safe. Moments later, he called down to us, his voice echoing in the chamber. "It's clear. Sophie, help Evelyn. I'll get her up first." I hurried to assist Evelyn, who still bore the pain of her recent injuries. With careful guidance, we secured her to the rope, and Lucas began the arduous task of pulling her upward. Evelyn's face was a mix of pain and relief as she ascended, her fingers clinging to the rope. Once Evelyn reached the upper level, Lucas quickly lowered the rope back down, and I began my own ascent. The chamber faded into the shadows below, and the anticipation of what lay above weighed heavily on my mind. With Lucas's strong arms pulling me upward, I felt a rush of hope. We were taking the first steps on a path that would, hopefully, lead us away from this nightmare and toward safety. With Evelyn trying to navigate the way, we embarked on our quest to escape the temple. The labyrinthine corridors seemed to shift and twist, confusing our sense of direction. Every step we took led us further into the heart of the temple, a place of unspeakable horrors. The temple's oppressive atmosphere seemed to seep into our very bones, and we couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. Our fears were soon realized. As we walked, a serpent-like mutant descended from the ceiling behind our backs, its grotesque form silhouetted against the faint light. Horror washed over us as we gazed upon the creature's writhing, sinuous body. Before we could react, the mutant struck with lightning speed, sinking its razor-sharp teeth into Evelyn's neck. Her cry of pain echoed through the temple, and her blood spattered the stone floor. Lucas acted swiftly, firing his weapon at the creature. The mutant screamed, wounded but not defeated, and it disappeared into the darkness, climbing the walls with an uncanny grace. Evelyn fell to the ground choking on her own blood. I immediately tried to help her, unzipping my backpack as Lucas was on the watch for another attack. I pointed my flashlight towards her injured neck, and then I saw the great damage that was inflicted with one single bite from the monster. Evelyn was dying, and there was nothing I can do but try to at least comfort her in her last moments with us. And just like that, a few moments later she was gone. In the aftermath of Evelyn's passing, silence descended upon us, broken only by the distant echoes of our ragged breaths. The weight of her absence pressed upon our chests, and my eyes welled with tears, blurring the temple's unforgiving terrain. Lucas, too, stood in solemn silence, his expression a mask of grief and stoicism. We looked at each other and we knew there was no time to grieve. We needed to move if we wanted to have at least small chance of making it out of this damn place. So, we continued following the way Evelyn believed was the right way out. In the wake of her untimely passing, a somber and heavy atmosphere enveloped Lucas and me. The once bustling conversations now gave way to the echoing sound of our footsteps, and the temple seemed to whisper tales of ancient sorrows. The air was thick with an unspoken longing, and our torches cast flickering patterns on the temple's ancient walls. Each step we took resonated with the echo of a shared determination, a solemn pact to continue our quest in Max and Evelyn's honor. The temple itself seemed to acknowledge our grief, as if the stone walls held the memory of every soul who had ventured here. As we pressed deeper into the temple's winding passages, we faced a daunting obstacle. Before us yawned a vast abyss in the stone floor, its depths concealed by inky darkness. It was a formidable chasm, and the absence of any visible bridge or passageway forced us to confront the abyss head-on. Lucas, resourceful and strong, swiftly uncoiled the rope he had been carrying. From his backpack, he retrieved climbing equipment, and with steady hands, he began to set up a makeshift line that would serve as our lifeline. When he was ready, I crossed first to the other side. After me, Lucas carefully moved across the rope. I watched with bated breath. The abyss seemed to stretch into eternity beneath him, a gaping maw that threatened to swallow anyone who dared to fall. Just as Lucas reached the opposite side, disaster struck. He slipped on the rope, and with a painful thud, he collided with the edge. I rushed to help him, my heart pounding with fear for his well-being. With great effort, I helped him climb up and carefully examined his injuries. His body bore the brunt of the impact, and it was clear that he was in considerable pain. With what medical supplies we had left, I tended to his wounds, offering him painkillers to help alleviate his suffering. Once Lucas was as comfortable as could be expected, we gathered our resolve. Our ordeal had left us battered and wounded, but it had not broken our determination to escape this nightmarish temple. With cautious steps and unwavering will, we continued our quest to find a way out. We pushed onward, driven by the desire to escape the temple's oppressive grip. Our steps echoed through the dim corridor until we reached a massive stone door that Evelyn believed was the exit. However, the door was adorned with a combination lock, a series of ancient symbols that needed to be arranged in the correct order to unlock it. Desperation filled the chamber as I strained to recall Evelyn's notes and the meanings of the symbols. The knowledge was hidden within the recesses of my memory, and I frantically pieced together the order they needed to be arranged. Behind us, the sound of approaching mutants grew louder, their presence a haunting reminder of the imminent danger. Lucas, always the protector, made a swift decision. He started shooting into the oncoming horde, creating a brief respite that allowed me to continue working on the combination lock. As I labored to decipher the symbols and enter the correct order, the chamber reverberated with gunshots and agonized screams. Finally, just as the mutants closed in, I managed to align the symbols correctly. The colossal stone door creaked open, and daylight poured into the chamber, blinding my eyes momentarily. This was our way out, and I cried out for Lucas to join me. But as I turned to look back, my heart sank. Lucas, surrounded by the mutants, fired his last round and then reached for a hand grenade on his belt. In a final act of heroism, he sacrificed himself, detonating the grenade amidst the encroaching horde. The deafening explosion echoed through the chamber as I made my escape. Lucas's sacrifice was nothing short of heroic. His selfless act not only ensured my escape but also safeguarded the world from the abominable creatures that had lurked within the temple's depths. Without his courageous stand, those mutant horrors might have found their way into the outside world, with catastrophic consequences. His sacrifice had sealed the temple and preserved humanity from a monstrous menace. Tears filled my eyes as the door sealed behind me, forever entombing the temple's secrets and the memory of the brave man who had given his all to ensure my escape. With a heavy heart, I stood outside the temple's imposing stone door. The weight of Lucas's sacrifice was etched into my soul. I knew, without a doubt, that I owed my life to his bravery and unwavering determination. The mutants and the sinister mysteries of the scholars had been sealed away, preserving the world's fragile peace. As I gazed at the temple's entrance, I knew that the scholars' horrifying experiments and the enigmatic secrets hidden within would remain buried, at least for the time being. The world would continue on, blissfully unaware of the malevolent forces that had once thrived within the temple's depths. And so, the haunting tale of our journey remained locked in that dark abyss, forever concealed from the eyes of the world. As I left the temple behind, I couldn't help but wonder when its secrets would resurface and what new horrors might be unleashed when that time came.